Welcome everybody to today's stream. Welcome Thursday, welcome. I hope today is a better day for you. After all, it's weekend, you know. Let's play some fractals. I didn't play them a lot on stream recently, so I thought let's go back to them. It will snow tomorrow. Crazy. In April. Interesting. I mean, where I live, it's actually summer. It's insane. It's so hot. I already feel it in my room as well. It's really crazy. Yeah, I guess it depends where you live. I mean, I guess that's fair. Oh, it's sunny. Okay, I mean, it's after all April, is it not? You know, April is said to be the month where everything changes in a few seconds, apparently. So yeah, I guess that could make sense. Yeah. But I guess it will not be that long then and will not last forever, the snow. Probably just a bit, I guess. I mean, it's crazy. When I think back, I'm not that old, but if I think back like 10 years ago, maybe 15 years, yeah, then the amount of snow that I had in a year was way higher than I think the last few years. The last few years, I did not really have any snow in my region, even though we had it when I was young. It's actually the difference over the years is actually really crazy. I don't know if it's really some kind of climate change or if it's just some, I don't know, yearly thing that is just changing all the time. But for me, that's something that I really noticed. And I mean, maybe that's for you the same. I don't know. April is a weave because intertwines a bit of winter and summer. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it makes sense. It feels like it at least, yeah. This time we have really good players. We have 2 really good DPS players in our party right now. No, it's actually one is quick DPS, I think. It's really, really good. You will see how fast this fractal run will be just by having some really good. So I mean, I'm living in the southern part of Germany, so it's not completely near the Alps, but yeah. And I mean, it doesn't really matter where in Germany you live. I think the climate in Germany is quite similar. I think there is nothing really where you say, okay, that's regional. You know, maybe if you live in some kind of mountainy area, yeah, maybe there's a difference. But in Germany, I would say Germany is too small to have major differences in a big weather phenomenon. You know, of course there are some regional differences in terms of, you know, sometimes they have 10-degree more or so, but it's not like one part of Germany gets snow and the other one has 20-degree. It's very unlikely. It's just not a big country. It has a lot of people in it for the size, but it's not really big. Yeah. But I think if you're from Poland, I think you should have at least a little bit more tough climate in that sense, because normally you are farther away from the ocean, and then that means that your climate should be a little bit less, let's say, how is it called? A little bit less put down from the ocean. So the ocean has some kind of decreasing effect, so it will not be much how extreme it will be. It's decreased. I think that's how it works. But you know, I'm not a, how's it called, weather guy. Come on, kill it. Thanks. Nice. You can see the DPS is really good from this group. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I think it's also, that's interesting part is, at least that what I learned in school, is that cities always have a higher temperature than the surrounding areas, even if they are quite near, because the city has always some kind of bubble around it that just increases the amount of temperature it has because of the smog and stuff. So it's actually quite interesting that human influence already changes the weather in a small scale like that. That's actually something that I was always very surprised about, because always I thought, okay, weather is something that is very hard to influence in that way. But apparently we actually do it on a regular basis. Yeah, yeah, of course, especially if you live in a really big city, not a small one. Yeah. You see, this fractal is actually not that bad if you have a really good DPS group. You know, our DPS is 123k. That's a good group, you see? Nice DPS. So let's provide some wounds before we leave here. And... oh, I don't have to do it. Very good. Yeah, I mean, I can see why you would say that it's annoying that you have a long way to either the mountains or the sea. That's sad. That's true. But the thing is, sometimes I feel like a lot of people always, that's my opinion, a lot of people always say, oh, I have to go to the mountains or the sea to make vacation, to do vacation and to be really relaxed and stuff. But I feel like oftentimes you can actually have vacation wherever you want if you just have the correct feeling and the correct people with you maybe, and that kind of stuff. So I think that's very important, and a lot of people actually underestimate that. So I'm actually not a, you know, I was traveling a lot when I was, so the last few years, but it's not something that I really, you know, that I would say is necessary to actually relax. So if you are someone like me, you don't really need it actually. That's the cool part here. No, too late. Yeah. So just a reminder, if you are in this fractal, you should always move out of the red AoEs that are spawning when the boss is standing still, because that's decreasing the DPS by quite a bit. What? Why is he GGing? There we go. Problem is not many natural places close like lakes or forests. We have one not too big forest close, but that's all. Yeah, I mean, if you're in a really big city, sometimes it's actually quite hard to find a spot that is somewhat natural. Yeah, but I guess I mean, it depends, of course. Some cities have some really nice areas close to them. Yeah, it's always a little bit, you know, sometimes you can't change where you live. And, you know, of course you can move, but it's not always that easy. Yeah. Especially if you have a job that is bound to a specific region, of course. No pain, no gain. Nice. So the last few days, I mean, you probably noticed on YouTube, I uploaded a video about LI, so low intensity Soul Beast. And I was researching a lot for that, not only for Soul Beast, but for all my upcoming low intensity builds, because I feel like that's very missing in the Guild Wars 2 community. Actually, it's something that people not really post videos about, not a lot at least. And there are a lot of builds that actually fit that criteria. So that's what I want to do. And I was really noticing, and that's some really sad part actually, I was really noticing how how hard it is to find relics for a power DPS build, you know? There are 3 relics that decrease your increase your DPS by a bit, yeah? But if you want to have a relic that is somewhat supportive as well, or it has some potential to be useful other than just increasing your DPS, it's actually really hard. There are the relic choices for DPS builds is very, very bad. It's actually crazy. There are so little amount of DPS builds that can make use out of relics that are somewhat interesting, that help your group or that increase your DPS while still being somewhat interesting. It's almost impossible. I feel like that's one of the biggest criticisms that I have when it comes to relic system, is that the relics, especially for DPS builds, are very passive. It doesn't matter if you're Condi or power DPS build, they're always like, okay, you just have one relic slot and this relic slot is filled with some kind of DPS increase relic, and it's really boring. It's like you passively deal 5% more damage, straight up. Or you just get, I don't know, a passive proc that gives you a little bit more of condis applied with your next attack or something. It's really boring, you know? And I think some relics are really interesting, you know, but they are just too weak to be used. For example, the fire relic is a really cool designed relic, because when you have a fire aura, you deal 7% more damage. So that's more than the usual amount. Then let's say the 5% thief relic and the claw, or for example the fireworks relic. This is really interesting. I think this fire relic should be like 10%. Yeah, 10%, and you would have a relic, or maybe even 12% or something, and you would have to make a build around this fire relic. Then, that was close. This fire relic would be way more interesting to take. Yeah, so that means that you actually had a choice for example, for Weaver, for maybe even Catalyst, something that can upkeep a lot of fire aura. That would be really interesting, that you have some situational relic not a lot of classes can use, but if you make a, let's say, 3 to 5 relics that are like that, then most DPS classes would find a relic that is actually interesting to them and fitting to their build. I think that would be really amazing if you have DPS relics that are very, very situational, very niche, but all the DPS classes have one relic that actually, or most of them have one relic that suits them, and you would change the playstyle a bit, you know? Because, for example, if a Catalyst gets a 10% damage buff, 15% damage buff if it has fire aura, then you would alter maybe your rotation, maybe your how you play, maybe even your, I don't know. Okay, let's see if we get the side CC, if that's actually working out in our favor, because sometimes it's not. Nah, I guess we have enough DPS. Okay. Very good. No, where is my Moa is not here. If you have so much DPS, sometimes the Moa doesn't come off cooldown if you do the side CC, so you have to be really careful and not waste it on something where you don't need the high CC bar. We need some heals, some heals, some heals. Nice. Yeah, well, the DPS is quite nice. Yes, yes, yes. That's what I meant. If you join a good group with at least 2 good people, we have Chess, we have George. Those are really good people. And we have amazing DPS. You know, I'm trying my best to support them, of course, to make it very straightforward, this fight. But, oh, come on. But, I mean, we should have CC'd that. So if one of the DPS guys would have helped me CC here, we would have been fine. But now we have to take a little bit longer, but it's fine. You see, this is... Even if you are greeting for DPS, if you have decent players, this fight is actually very easy. It's just about executing mechanics and using the break pass. But you need to have very good DPS to make this fight that easy. If you have DPS that is a little bit lackluster, this fight takes longer and you have way more room for error. That's actually the summary for almost every single encounter in Guild Wars 2, is if you had higher DPS, the fight would be shorter, the phases would be shorter, and almost every single of the mechanics would be happening less or would be less punishing because you would phase it faster, so you will not have to heal as much and stuff. And that's why high DPS groups, like most experienced people's groups, are actually somewhat easier to play in if you have the high amount of DPS. If you're in a very bad DPS group, you have to execute all the mechanics multiple times and there is way more room for error. So that's why you actually have to think like, okay, increasing DPS and knowing the mechanics helps you, but even if you just increase the DPS, sometimes it's actually also enough to actually make it work. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting concept in Guild Wars 2. Especially in fractals and other short phase, short living encounters, yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you skip the water phase, then you are it's in a completely different encounter than if you would not skip the phases or the air phase, for example. If you wouldn't do that, it's actually insane. Okay, let's do it correct this time. I mean, someone should remove the boons. I guess it's me. Then that's the sad part when everything is put on the. I think that's what I don't like about really high DPS groups. They greed so much for DPS that the Chronomancer has to do everything, and now I'm a little bit lackluster on stability. And my stability uptime will not be as good as it should be because I have to swap another utility slot to deal with the mechanics. I'm not a big fan of that, but I guess that's how it goes. You know, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 stability applications, which is good, yes, but it's not as good as if I would have the mantra as well. Welcome, Roaming Spirit. Welcome, welcome. Hope you all had a nice day and have a nice weekend so far. And as always, if you have any comments, any feedbacks, please let me know. Do we get the face? Not completely. Nice, we got it. No, not today. No fish, please. No fish. I'm not a fish hater, you know, it's not what I am. But please, no fish today. No fish today. Okay. So now my stability is almost out, and I have to be careful. I can't apply more stability to my party right now. Why is it not? Ah, it's already stunned, is it? I can't apply stability. Yeah, that's why I don't like to take this, because it forces me to use my stability. Greedy pot, yes, all the time. No. I would say core ref, I tried to make it, you know, I tried to convince you that I'm actually not a core ref enjoyer, but at least I would say core revenant is actually underrated, and I proved that, I think, in my video, where I showcased how good Revenant is in roaming, even as a core Revenant, and sadly no one actually clicked on that video. That's the sad part. There are only a handful of people that actually were interested in playing core Revenant. Yeah. Yes, you clicked it. Yeah, you were also the person that forced me to do it, you know. Would have been sad if you didn't even click on it. It would be such a meme. Exactly, you don't even have that class. Okay. By the way, we will do a training of this Fractal CM during next week. So we will do a training on Wednesday evening. We will do this on stream, a training. So if you are interested in learning how to do this Fractal CM, or just learn how to do it fast, be sure to watch the stream on Wednesday. The slots are sadly already full, so that means we don't have anyone that is actually capable of joining anymore, but at least you can watch me on stream and learn it, and it might still help you a lot. Okay, so exactly, Revenant is a very special class in that way. No, I'm doomed, not me. Welcome, Sectors, welcome. So here you have to GG if it's really close to getting to 66% and you are about to die, because you really don't want to proc the bomb. The bomb is really important. You should always care of the bomb, even if you're greedy. That's the most important part. It's very sad if it hits the support, of course, because if it hits the support, the boons will be worse for a short time. But typically in Fractus, that's not a big deal. And you see, we almost faced it before it jumps to the edge, so it's actually really nice. You see in that one. Take the bomb. Okay, we're almost done. The orb, use the orb. Yeah, I mean, this is actually interesting, you're right. I'm not top CC here in this fight. But that's of course because I cheat. And I wasn't there in the first CC phase. Very nice, we did. Good job. But that's what I, you know, always want to mention, if you are in a really tryhard group, they min-max a lot. So for example, I don't have to take Reflect here in this fight, even though normally I would have, because we have a Hammer Holosmith which can Reflect, yeah? So that's stuff that you always have to take into consideration. If you have a lot of tryhard people, they know a lot of about the mechanics and stuff already, to make this fight way easier than other people actually would expect it to be. Should have used my Arcane Thievery first, but it's okay. Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's actually true. It's one of the saddest things, or not sad, but one of the weirdest things, that Asura are actually the best CC class. If you have a CC, for example, if you are Chronomancer, if you are Druid and stuff, you can slot more CC on your bar because you have this weird, I think it's Techno Bubble or how it's called, this skill is actually helping to CC even more. It's not something that is, you know, insane, but it's just a CC that helps you if you need even more CC. Normally it's not really necessary for anything. But yeah, it's an interesting tech, definitely. Okay, when does the proc happen, please? There it is. Some stability. Okay, we got the strip and everything is fine, I guess. Oops. I'm actually really rusty. It's actually insane. I'm so rusty. It's really sad because, you know, I don't play Fractals for 2 weeks and I'm really rusty and I miss every single mechanic. It's actually quite sad, I have to admit. Yes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, glad you enjoy my guides. Glad you enjoy them. I mean, for me it's actually relaxing to play Fractals. But of course, if you are, you know, we will be done shortly with it and then we do some more relaxing stuff, that's true. But I don't mind doing stuff that I did 100 times. For me, 100 times, even if it's fast-paced, it's something that is actually quite chill. Yeah. But don't worry, Filthy. We will be done shortly with Fractals. At least with the challenge modes that are a little bit more fast-paced, I would say. I also think I play with the wrong graphics settings. I'm not completely sure, but I think my graphics settings are too high for this fight. Yeah, that's why I actually don't see anything, because I didn't have the effect LOD checked. That's a big problem, you know, it looks way worse than it actually is. Nice, we got the CC, everything works out fine. Power Mechanist or Memeson in World vs. World. I have 2 other builds cooked up, but it's not those. I have some crazy cooks and I will make probably a build guide about them if I can showcase them enough, you know. If I find enough 101s and cool other things, then maybe one outnumbered situations or whatever. And I have be hyped for those 2. They are actually very underrated and they are big cooks, you know. They are not even close to getting any attention on any build websites, even though they are really good. I think I did not lose a 1-on-1 on both of those builds yet, even though I played like 10 or so. So it's really, it will be a good one. Yeah, we will go to those after the fractals. I think it's a shame that Bladezone is not working very well in competitive modes, because I think it's a really cool 1-on-1 spec, in my opinion. It's very interesting because you have the dodge mechanic that you have to do to actually be able to win a 1-on-1. You have to dodge the stuff of the Dragon Trigger. I think that's a really cool mechanic to have. But I mean, it's just so bad. I really can't make it work in roaming. I tried, I really tried. But it's just not working. That's the sad part. Yeah, exactly. It's the Dragon Trigger is so bad that you don't even have to dodge it a lot of the times. And that just makes it that's just not a fun spec, you know? It's designed around one mechanic and it's so bad that you don't even have to interact with it, you know? So in a lot of questions from YouTube, in a lot of videos I say that Deadeye is S tier in PvE because of the unload build. What about regular powered rival Deadeye? So it's really, really good. It's one of the best DPSs out there, but it's more gimmicky. That means that you have to play very aggressively. It's not always the best option, even though it has some huge DPS. So it's like you can make it work if you have a very good group and if you know it well. But if you don't know it well, there are other DPS options that are actually more worthwhile to run. So I will make a guide about the real, so to say, not the unload, but the real tryhard Deadeye in the future. So don't worry about that one. But it is definitely not a beginner build. It's harder to play for sure. It's not very hard, don't get me wrong. It's just not as easy as the unload build, that much is for sure. And it's also not the easiest DPS class. For example, if you look at how many tryhards actually play it in fractals, in raids and stuff, it's actually not a lot of people that play it. And that's for a reason, because it's not very hard, but it's somewhat difficult to perform on for a lot of fights. That's the truth here, yeah. That was a close CC. I think that's a really cool idea with the mech slot. That's a really cool idea, I agree. But I think they will never do something like that, because a lot of people in PvE especially really enjoy the mech. I think the mech is one of the most played engineer specs. I think it's probably by far the most played engineer specs in PvE, because a lot of people really enjoy having a pet for whatever reason. You know, I can't follow that statement, but that's just how it is, I think. Okay, I need a focus. Yeah, I think that would be really cool if you could just change the look of the mech. That would help a lot, but that's just not how it is. Yeah, it's true. It's not a very complicated thing to play, but it's something to if you want to pull a Deadeye off, the really big thing, the really big numbers, then it's not that easy. Yeah, I liked it as well, and that's why I will do a build guide about it and explain the rotation and stuff very detailed, and then you can see for yourself why on some encounters it's a little bit harder to perform on. Yeah. Do you recommend any other classes that for raids? So I would say if you are in a tryhard scenario, what's really good is a Power Soul Beast. In a more casual scenario, like in pack groups and stuff, I would not recommend Power Soul Beast. I would rather recommend, for example, Power Virtuoso or something that's really good, because it just has a decent damage number and is not reliant on allies for the most part. So that can help. What other DPS specs would I recommend? I mean, I think Power DH is one of the best DPS specs right now. So if you just play a Dragon Hunter with Longbow, it's obviously not feeling like a Deadeye at all, but it's definitely a very good spec. Even in casual groups, in tryhard groups, it's just always a very good spec. Yeah. Yeah, I know that quote from Nike actually, Snowdrop. Welcome. Yeah, that the pet players are one of the worst players in all games. I think that's. I wouldn't go as far, but I would say it's actually true that probably a lot of the, let's say the majority of people that enjoy playing with minions and pets and stuff are not very try hard. That's probably without too much of a, being toxic or something. Just saying that might be a fact. Yeah. But, I mean, everyone what they want, it's not like you really... If there is a mech build that works decently well, like the Condi mech right now, I think that's fine. I don't care if you have a mech in your group. I think that's totally fine. Okay, let's break the break bar fast. Nice group, I like it. I think the interesting part is they really tried to make Ranger in World vs. World, for example, more playable by making the pet cooldowns, or that if it's dead, only 25 seconds until it comes back. But that made Ranger such a beast for roaming. It's actually insane how much Ranger is actually now improved by that. It's crazy. Yeah, Longbow 4 is the cast time of Longbow 4 is annoying me so much in all game modes actually. Even though I know they will cast it, it's so hard to dodge actually. It's so hard to dodge because it's so fast. I mean, if they would double the cooldown, not the cooldown, double the cast time of it, we would actually have a decent amount of time to dodge. But I feel like right now it's like insane. It's so hard. You really have to predict when it happens. You can't really see the cast time. It's so fast, especially because a lot of rangers, like Soulbeast, like Untamed, have access to quickness. And it's not always up, but it's not something that is completely missing all the time. And it actually makes it even harder. It's almost impossible to dodge if you don't predict it. Yeah. There are some, with the Bandit, there was some kind of storyline that actually made they put a lot of bandits in the old maps that they are somewhat more challenging. So it's not the original bandits that you are referring to that are so challenging. It's some new champions that they added, new relative, with a storyline after launch, and those were way more challenging because they thought that they will be done by players that are level 80. So that's why those bandit champions that you encounter in Tyria are quite likely to be quite hard because they are actually added after the base game. Yeah. That's also true. That's also true. I think Longbow, I think I really like the design of Longbow, that you have some really nice attack pattern and stuff. I really liked it when Soul Beast had Longbow. I think that was a really fun build. But nowadays it feels like every ranger that is playing Longbow is not really knowing for the most part when to use the force skill. It's really bad, I agree. Yeah. I mean, typically, did they not nerf Mechanist, the pet, how much it actually does? How much sustain it has? Because I feel like it's upcoming with the next balance patch, I think. Because it's actually a little bit... I don't know. It's very tanky right now in World versus World, actually. I think it has something like 15k HP, something like that. It's really high. And that's... In Circ play, you can use it to soak damage. It's actually crazy, yeah. But they nerf it with the next balance patch, I think, by 50% or something, so that will be huge. So it will be not very good in roaming either anymore. Yeah, I mean, it's actually insane. I don't know. I think it was something that a lot of people, or not a lot of, but some people used it to cheese it in Circs. So you played multiple of those to just have more targets in a Circ to make it harder for the enemy to hit real players. And you just use the mech as some kind of really fucked up tank. Yeah. So something like that was being played or is being played by some really try-hard World versus World people in a Circ scenario. And that's just very annoying, obviously, to face. That's not how you would want to have your game mode to be, you know, that there is just some pet soaking all the damage while you can't hit the real enemies. That's just stupid. But I guess if they really nerf it by 50% or something like that, then it's even less tanky than it used to be. Yeah. At least in roaming, it was never a problem, I would say, that the pet is too tanky. Could just ignore the pet, the mech, and you would be fine for the most part. So the thing is, a lot of people that are very new to the game and play Ranger are thinking like, yeah, I let my pet tank, you know, like a bear that is quite tanky, and I will just play Longbow and sit in the back and shoot from there. And then a lot of those people are not really understanding how stacking works and stuff in Guild Wars 2. It's not like a big problem, you can learn that, but it's like a lot of people just think about that way too much, about that like, I don't stack with my party, I'm a ranger, I'm the role-playing guy, I stay behind and that kind of stuff. And that makes it very annoying for people that want to stack, that want to have all the boons and stuff, because if they then knock, for example, the mobs out of the group, and that is just making the fight longer for that reason. So that's what Snowdrop was referring to, that a lot of people that play Longbow are, no, not a lot of, but there are quite a lot of people that don't understand how Rangers should be played to actually get the most damage in group content. I mean, I think Mechanist should not be a class that is playable in competitive modes. That might be a hot take, but I feel like that's not how it should be played. I think you should not have a class that loses all the class mechanics to an AI. I think that's not something that you want. I think that's always making the game worse for almost anyone that fights this, because it's just, you fight a pet, and if the pet is too strong, it's really annoying to fight. If it's too weak, it's really bad to fight against real players if you are the mech. So I think there's no real way to make Mechanist a really fun, interactive 101 spec for competitive modes. I think it should, just like Scourge, I think it's also, at least in PvP, I think it should not be played, because those two specs are very toxic in their baseline design. Why am I thinking about Scourge? Because a Scourge in PvP, for example, can cover the whole point with the shade, and it just face rolls, and if it's too strong, that makes the spec very easy, and you can just deny a lot of the capture points, the conquest points. So, yeah. Yeah, maybe you're right there, Roaming Spirit. Maybe you're right there. Chaos? I think it's a chaos track. Yeah. Let me cast this. But I think the balancing or the decision was already made. You know, it's not like Mechanist is really good in PvP. So I guess that's how it goes. Yeah, I mean, if you do that, Filthy, if you do that, then you will probably get some hate comments for that. Because people really don't like it if they have a double bow ranger in their party that is standing far away from the group and knocking the mobs away. In Fractals, for example, it's horrible. Give me my weapon swap. Where did this guy go? Okay. It's the ranger. Yeah, but I feel like that's the problem. A lot of people pick the classes because of the names. But that's why I really want to showcase the class before people pick a class, because then you see how a class is played. And I feel like the ranger in Guild Wars 2 is not really the typical range class. You can make it work, yes, but it's not like you have to play Longbow to actually be able to play anything. I think Ranger is way more melee focused in PvE. I guess in any game mode actually. It's very melee focused. You always want to be in. It's like a warrior with a pet. That's how Ranger plays, you know? And a lot of people pick classes based on the names, and that's a problem. That's a big problem because, or maybe it's a problem because ArenaNet decided to have the wrong names for them. Maybe that's another problem, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's maybe Archer, but maybe the Archer is no. How would you name the Ranger? It's feeling like an Archer, but would you name it like some kind of? It's really hard. Maybe like Tamer or something, you know, because then you are referring to the pet, but not to the ranged aspect. That could be how you should name it. I don't know. It's not completely clear how I would name it. I think there's a lot of problems with naming. For example, the Dragon Hunter is also a very bad name in my opinion for an elite spec. It's not very. What does it even mean? Why are you a Dragon Hunter? It could be any class actually that is a Dragon Hunter. It's not referring to anything that is about Guardian. So Beastmaster maybe, yeah. But then, for example, the Soul Beast is a little bit weird. Then you lose your beast. So yeah. I would say Ranger is a bad name. That much I agree on, but I feel like finding a very good name is also very hard. Yeah. What other fractals do we have today? Urban Battleground is the last one. Hunter. Yeah, Hunter is actually I would say is very straightforward, very baseline, not very defining what melee or weapon or whatever you use. I think that's a good one. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, exactly. If you think about what the word ranger means, a lot of native speakers actually know that a ranger is not something that always has to be using ranged weapons or something. It's more like someone that is actually caring about nature. Yeah, but it's for a lot of people that are not native speakers. You think ranger has 5 letters in there that are actually used for range, you know, for something that is far away, and that's why you would actually pick a class because of that. I think a lot of you have to think about that, Snowdrop Fox, that there are a lot of people that play Guild Wars 2 that are not native speakers, and they think, oh, Ranger has to be someone that is actually ranged. But that's just not the case in that sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's true actually. It's actually true, Roaming Spirit, that especially in nowadays PvE, it's not a very good pick if you want to deal a lot of DPS from range. It's not the best option. That much is for sure. You have some nice consistent damage with longbow, but it's not insane. So it's actually true. You're right there that Ranger is problematic when it comes to just the amount of range damage it actually has for most game modes. It's actually not even on top. Yeah. But you know, it's not necessary in my opinion. I think the Ranger name is actually not implying that you have to have a ranged weapon. It's just what people always think about it, yeah. For example, a warrior is very straightforward. You know, people always think, okay, a warrior is someone that goes into physical combat. You can use a ranged weapon, you can just use a melee weapon. You are very not magic focused. I think a lot of people understand that. But for Ranger, it's not that clear. Yeah, it's actually true, Cyan, that actually Necromancer is also somewhat the same, but Necromancer, I would say, is the first time where I would say, okay, that's a mistake by ArenaNet in that sense, because Necromancer feels like it's someone that actually raises the dead. That's the name in some kind of dead magic. That's what necromancy means, yeah. But that's not really always the case what you do. It's more like some kind of dark magic that you do, maybe some kind of ritualist to some extent. Nah, ritualist is more revenant. I don't know. It feels like it's the name is not completely fitting anymore for all the elite specs, for example. But you can make a spec that works like that. You can make an army of undead minions. You can raise the dead with, for example, revive signets and stuff. There is the possibility, but it's not the gameplay that you would always have it, yeah. Yeah, maybe Necromancer in Guild Wars 1 was more like that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is also nowadays you have the elite specs that have to be somewhat interesting and change the class up. But at the same time, it's also a little bit harder for the people to actually understand that an elite spec changes the class in a way that actually might bring it further away from the original class design, yeah. So just look at, for example, at Necromancer, yeah. Necromancer was always designed around the shroud because you have a second life pool, you fill your life bar, and that's it, yeah. But then you have Harbinger and Scourge that don't really interact with that mechanic in a way that used as a second life pool. So it's the elite specs make it way harder to actually understand what the core class actually means nowadays. That's sadly for a new player really hard to understand. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe a Willbender is also not very guardian-y. I don't know. I feel like it's for me it's fine, but I can feel that, yeah, why you would say that. Yeah, longbow can be fun, that's true, but it's just not very good. You know, it needs a damage buff to actually make it worthwhile. I really like the DPS Soul Beast that was really using longbow. There was a time where you used longbow in the Soul Beast. That was really fun. I really enjoyed that. But it's not used anymore. Nowadays you use spear and of course offhand axe and maybe hammer. But that's it, you know, you don't really use longbow in a DPS build anymore. It doesn't really matter which game mode. It's just not as good anymore. Yeah. Yeah, the turrets is also weird. The turrets on Engineer is like, you feel like, okay, that makes sense. An Engineer has turrets, you know, it has its kits and it has its turrets. But the turrets are so, you know, no one plays it. There's no game mode that you play the turrets. It's just the turrets should get a major rework, in my opinion, in how they are played. Because you, at one point, you don't really want to make them like, let's say, some passive things that you can easily use to AFK farm or stuff. You want to have them a little bit more active, but at the same time, a lot of people that actually enjoy engineer would probably like some kind of companion that is stationary that can fill exactly that role. So I feel like it's really hard to find a sweet spot there, you know? I don't know. Exactly, you play the turret for the gun, for the tool belt skill, because the tool belt skill is way better than the turret. That's a really sad reality for almost any turret. I feel like the turret should be, maybe you should rework the turret into something that is doing a one-time attack, but so you spawn a turret and it doesn't attack passively, but you can activate it once again, and then it does one powerful attack and then it despawns. So it prevents AFK farming, but you can still have the passive nest, you know, that you say, okay, I put all my turrets there. If I lure my enemy there, I can activate them and I get some major DPS buffs. Maybe that could make sense for people and people would like that. But I feel like it's really hard to make turrets viable without making AFK farming really, really broken. Because just putting down turrets and waiting for the enemies to respawn is something what a lot of AFK farmers do on engineer, you know. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it's the same with minions and the mech, yeah. You're right there. You're definitely right there. Which is sad, because I think the mechanic should exist in a game that is so versatile, but I can see why they don't want it to be, you know? I really can see that, of course, yeah. Let's get some nice gold. Yeah, glad you like it, Professor Hunter. Maybe it's some combo field, maybe it's some explosion. I would say that's good, yeah. But I feel like that would be balanced. That would make AFK farming not viable. But at the same time, I think people would not be satisfied that really wanted to play a turret playstyle, because people really like, if they think about an engineer, they think about someone that puts down the turrets and they don't do damage themselves, and they use, for example, the tool belt skills, or maybe the how's it called, the one kit that actually with the wrench you use to fix the turrets or something, yeah, and you repair them, you heal them, so to say, so they do that damage. That's something that a lot of engineers really like, I would say. But that's a problem, because that's exactly the playstyle that you don't want to have in a game that has potential problems with AFK farming, yeah. So that's a big problem, you know. It's like, can you find a middle ground there? Probably not. That's why they don't buff it in any way, and they just ignore them. It's like the racial skills, it's like the minion skills. It's in PvE, it's just not very viable, yeah. And for the most part, it's also not viable in PvP, yeah. When it takes enemies max, you put the mark on you so you can hunt full AFK. That's true. Maybe something like that. I don't know. It's really hard. I think it's always hard to really catch AFK farmers that do it really properly in that state, that really secretly. So it's really hard to actually catch them. So there will be always a way to. They will probably always find a way, at least. Yeah. I don't know. That's just my impression. I have to be honest. I don't have any interaction with AFK farmers. I don't play that content. I am not standing around in open world maps enough to actually see them happening, but I know people that actually are really annoyed by that, yeah. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, it's really hard. I feel like there are a lot of things. So for example, if you look at Necromancer, yeah, so those 4 minions here, you really don't use them in any game mode, yeah. You only use them on a Minion Mancer build, and on a Minion Mancer build, they actually are not used for, because they are so strong. It's more like you want to lose a little bit of agency and give it to some AI, you know, and that's why people use it. But it's not a really good build, you know, it's not working very well. I think Necromancer is the only class that can make a minion build somewhat decently work, because it has a trade line that supports it. But even there in PvE, it's so weak. It's really, really weak. You typically just take, for example, the Summon Shadow Fiend, maybe the Bone Minions for some Life Force, or the Flash Worm for some teleport on Sunbreak. But it's not that you use it for the minions. And that's sad, because the Necromancer in itself, you know, is the class that raises the undead. Yeah. So this class fantasy is not really fulfilled, you know. And even on Reaper, you could even use the Rise Shout, where you even get more minions potentially. But it's not working out like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Elementalist is even worse because the pets die after a while. That makes it even less interesting. But I would say Elementalist is like not... People don't expect an Elementalist to have a lot of pets. That's not the expectation. So that's, I would say, a little bit more okay than a Necromancer. I mean, imagine the pets would die after a while here. That makes them even worse than they already are. Yeah. Exactly. That's a good point, yeah, by not creative. Yeah, that's a really good statement. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, Bladezone, in my opinion, especially in competitive modes, needs a major rework to actually be interesting. If it would be like some kind of anime samurai, that would be really cool. But this one attack that is actually, even if it would do, let's say, 15 KD damage or something if it hit, yeah, then it would still be a playstyle that is somewhat lackluster for a lot of game modes in competitive scenarios, because it's always very... either you hit it or you don't, and then it decides the fight. I think that's, even if it's really good, it's a debatable thing. But the sad truth, it's so bad that nowadays you don't even have to dodge it, you know? If a Bladezone casts the Dragon Trigger and you're playing a somewhat tanky build, you can just ignore the Bladezone and DPS it while it casts, and if you get hit by it, you don't care because it's not a lot of damage anyway. So it's really crazy. It's actually crazy how Bladezone is not really working out in competitive modes. In PvE, don't get me wrong, I think in PvE it's a very decent class to play. It's not the easiest class, but it's actually doing its job, I would say. But in competitive modes, don't play it. It's really bad. Yeah. I tried it. I actually tried it in World vs. World and PvP just recently to make it really work, but it's not working. Yeah. Yeah, in World vs. World, there was a time where a lot of people actually played Necromancer because of, for example, the Rise Shout, where you had a lot of minions, the exact same issue with the Necromancer, with the Mechanist pet, that you had a lot of minions that were just targets for example, Elementalist Meteor Shower. And if you have, instead of 50 active players, you would have 50 active players and 100 pets. It was not that likely that you could one-shot a Zerg if you put a lot of damage on one spot, because the pets were actually there to soak the damage. That's what a lot of people actually played back then. But it's not anymore. I mean, sadly, luckily, I would say. It's only the mechs that are a problem. But it's not like the Rise is really a big thing anymore. I think Bladezone is quite tanky. I think it has the tools to be a really annoying tank. But the damage is just not there. You're just a noodle. They don't do anything. It doesn't matter which kind of weapon you have. The damage is really, really bad. Exactly. You use Golemancer and Rise. That's actually insane. I mean, the Golemancer runes are now back with the Golemancer relic. What is this? What is this Guardian playing? Nice, we got the CC. Oh, the block. That was annoying. I did not expect my team to... What are they doing? Please kill. Okay, I think I was never in range anyway. Yeah, the Stormsinger relic got nerfed. I mean, it was just a, you know, that was a change that did not, you know, that was not really done for the Bladezone, of course. It was more like Willbender was using it, Mirage was using it, Soulbeast was using it, Untamed was using it. So a lot of really strong roaming spec used it. That's why they nerfed it. It was not really the case for Bladezone, of course. What is my team doing? I think we are not going to fight here against 4 people. This is such a low elo match. It's actually insane. I should concentrate here for a bit, just to make sure that I actually don't lose this, because that's gonna cost a lot of rating. Okay. Yeah, I would say a core how is it called? Core warrior is actually more DPS, I would say. Yeah. And it's probably also tankier for the most part. Oh, come on. Nice, we got the kill. I think we got another one. Yes, very good. Bell is upcoming. Very good, very good. Just wait for the bell here, I guess. This match is way too close, I have to be honest. This is way too close. Yeah, Core Warrior doesn't have the greatest mobility, but I feel like Bladezone is also with, I mean, the bug that actually made Bladezone really strong, that you could use the Dragon Trigger, and if you instantly cast it, then you would have a short cooldown instead of the full 9-second cooldown. That was actually making it very mobile. In PvP, it was a menace back then, but they nerfed it, so it's not possible anymore. And now it's really annoying. You're not very fast. Okay, I defended the point, but now I have to be careful for some knockback or something. Okay. I mean, it depends in what kind of scenario, Filthy. Maybe you're right. I think Core Warrior is currently played in a Zerg, and it's actually quite decent there. But in a 1-on-1, I would say Spellbreaker might have a little bit more agency, because you can actually play and be defensive and aggressive at the same time. A Core Warrior typically is very, hit or miss. Sometimes you have 1-on-1s that are very good, and then if you get bursted, you can't do a lot of stuff. I think Core Warrior can be really good, but it's in a Zerg play, it's probably better. Maybe, I don't know, maybe better than Bladezone. Bladezone for sure, but then Spellbreaker as well. I'm a little bit pressured by those people here. I have to be careful. Maybe they are pressured by me as well, I guess. What are they playing? What is this? This is a low elo match, I have to be honest. Why is everyone dying? Why did I kill 2 people off point while my team is dying to other 2 people directly next to me? What? Tech W. Kill this guy. Oh my gosh. What is this? I don't even know what's going on here. We could still lose the match. That's actually insane. Bonk. Yeah, I got bonked here, but I don't even know. I really don't know what I have. I should have helped my team, yes, but I did not recognize that my team is actually dying on the point versus 2 other people. It's actually, I did not expect that, because I was killing 2 other people on the other side, so I thought we would be fine. So I guess we have to go for the bell. My team is dying again. Oof. Focus this guy, please, 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 please. Is it the 1v3? I don't even know what's going on here. Why are 2 people dead here? And the enemy Mesmer had to disengage. It's actually insane. What is going on? What is this? And another challenger approaches. And my team is losing the map? What? How is this bronze? Or where am I? What? It's actually insane. How is my team losing the map? I killed 4 people, right? This guy is the next, so 3 plus this guy. I don't know. I'm actually platinum. I don't know why this is actually happening. I guess it's morning queues. I don't know. Maybe that's the problem. It's actually insane. I have not seen that in a long while, that this is actually happening. But my team is AFK on point. This guy shouldn't have any dodges left. Oh, come on. That hit me for 8k or something. This guy's just AFK. Yeah, it's actually insane. This guy is just AFK. Straight up AFK on point. 7k hit. Yeah, it feels like it. It feels like it's actually people are actually playing that and have never played PvP before. And are also in with a, I don't know, a booster build or something like that. I mean, probably they would be actually better if they had the booster build. So 50 points, we still win the match if the enemy team gets the bell. So we can fully commit to the bell and we will probably be fine. That's a burn will bender. Disgusting. With torch. I have to disengage here, I will die. I have to be really careful here. The staff as well. That's a cook. Torch, Condi will bender with staff. I have to be in pros. I actually don't know what's going on. I actually don't know. Really, I did not know this guy. Crazy. I mean, we won. Was a close one. I did way too close to comfort actually. I actually was gold only. I lost my match yesterday, I guess. 3 rating. What? What? What is this? 3 rating. How much would I have lost? 40? You know, normally you get 3 rating if you're 100, 1,700, 1,800 or something like that. But what? 41.7% damage of the team. That was a entertaining match, not even only to watch, but also to play. I have to be honest. That was entertaining. Yes, definitely KW. Definitely. It was really fun, silly. It was really fun. Okay, so I wanted to showcase some builds here. So that's what I do. We have some really interesting cook for Mesmer right now. So this is a Mesmer build. And it is a Condi Mesmer build that is very focused on confusion damage, because that's something that is absolutely obnoxious. But it's a crazy cook, because we use the Chrono Phantasma trait so that our phantasms respawn a second time, and you get in competitive mode to get 50% damage decrease on that. Yeah. And this 50% damage decrease is actually hurting power damage. But if you have a condi damage phantasm, it actually does some really nice and nasty conditions still. And that's actually the thing. Currently I'm playing on, where am I? Bloodstone Gulch. That's where we are. Yeah. And this is the idea of the build, to apply a lot of condis with phantasms and be really annoying and have a lot of confusion and a lot of burst damage with the eggs and still have a lot of wounds as well. It's very bad at clearing camps because for that reason you have very low amount of other condis that are actually dealing high amount of damage, because the problem is confusion is really bad against NPCs. But it's very, very good against players. I think if you fight me and you have not a ton of condi glances, this is one of the most annoying builds to fight, because my confusion spikes, 15 confusion or something like that. You die to it if you just press your condi glance. It's a really fun build, I have to admit, but it's also very underrated. Not a lot of people actually know that this build can actually be played and is actually working very well. Exactly, if you fight a Mirage, if you fight some kind of Mesmer that has really high amount of confusion and you're an Elementalist, you are most likely dead. If you are not having 10, 20 condi glances on your bar. Yeah, Elementalists can do that, but if you're not playing a build like that, it's very hard actually to outlast the enemy. Maybe we can get some nice one-on-ones to actually see that. And I will show you that this build is very fun to play. The reason why it's so fun is because you also use illusions, so you have some nice damage increase to your torch, to your shatters, and more confusion damage. And then you pair that with a lot of boons that you get. So you have a really high amount of boons uptime. And this is just if a build like Power Herald, like for example a Power Mirage, if you get hit once by this build because you have so many condis that you apply passively, you're dead. You know, it's insane. And also it's very annoying because your phantasms respawn. So you dodge the first phantasm, but you might not dodge the second time when this phantasm attacks, and then you still die to it. So it's really, really annoying. It's really underrated. And it also is quite tanky, even though it plays so aggressive. It's really fun. Let's say, hopefully we get some one-on-ones, but right now it feels like we are a little bit on a dead server. How many people are there? Maybe we can do this. Ooh, they are in the tower. Let's try to defend this tower. Sneaky, 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 sneaky. Okay. I'm not so sure if I have a lot of cooldowns left for that, but I try my best. Ah, it's a Condi Herald. Sad. If it would be a Power Herald, it would be better. Ah, we have a teammate that helps. Very good. Nice, we got the defend event. Very good. We got them. Good job. Nice, good help here. Aote was there as well. Easy defense. Easy defense. Easy defense. I really like to play with Arcane Theory as well, because Arcane Theory is really underrated. It's giving you quickness, it's unblockable, it's applying slow, which is one of the most annoying conditions to actually have, and it steals boons. So I steal boons from them while giving them their condis back to them. So that can mean that I get a really big amount of damage just back to them. Of course, that's not always guaranteed, but it can be really nice as well. I think it's a really, really good utility skill for roaming. Not for other situations, it's really good in roaming because it's a single target. You know, if I play in a circ, not that good. But if I'm in a 1v1, in a 1v2, it's really, really nice. Yeah, I mean, if you... yeah, that sounds like... I really don't like if I play against a Mesmer that plays really survivable, really tanky stuff, especially on Mirage. I feel like that's really annoying always. It doesn't really I don't really care what kind of matchup you are playing. It's always annoying. But if you then play against some tanky Ranger spec as well, it's just feels like, look at the 23 confusion at one point. That's so much damage. It's actually insane. That means that if you activate an attack, you get around 4k, 4.5k damage. That sounds disgusting, actually. Yeah. I think this is a really fun roaming build. Sadly, it's not very good at clearing camps, for that matter, because most of your damage comes from confusion, and confusion against NPC is really bad nowadays. But I still think it's very fun. Maybe I can get some more 1v1s or 1v2s actually going. That would be cool. Yes, exactly. That's the part, MP, that is really annoying. If you play against a Mesmer and you are playing Engineer or Elementalist, weapon swapping or attunement swapping counts as proccing the elements. And that's the really crazy part, because, for example, a lot of Elementalists have some kind of cleanse on element swap, but if you don't, even if you cleanse the confusion away, it's actually dealing the damage one last time when you swap away from an element, because it's triggering the attack, and that's really annoying. It's really, really annoying. You only can deal with it if you are an Elementalist and you have a lot of cleanses. For example, if you're playing Dagger, if you are playing with the, how is it called, the Diamond Skin rework trait, and if you're playing, for example, we have a Challenger approach, is very good. Yeah, if that's what Roamingspert just posted, if you can make that work, yes, then you might be fine against this build. This is a Condi Soul Beast. It's almost the matchup that you promised here. Yeah, I mean, doesn't look that great for it. So good. And I have stability in my kit with all my shatters as well. That was actually quite annoying. It works the same for Firebrand tomes. Yes. Whenever you trigger and skill, so to say, confusion procs, and swapping attunements, swapping tomes, swapping kits is triggering it. And really interesting, very fun fact, no one actually cares about, but a very fun fact, that you actually, if you are Elementalist, yeah, and you swap elements, especially if you swap to water, and you stand next to a Guardian, an enemy Guardian, that has H's, the water swap, even though it doesn't do anything, the water swap is actually removing the H's. For whatever reason. I'm not joking. Just swapping into water while you are next to a Guardian with H's or someone, you actually remove the H's. Crazy bug. It's actually insane. Really? On different team? Huh. Really? That should not be the case. We should be in the same team. I don't know. Yeah, that Ranger was not really living that long, I have to admit. That was not crazy. But you could see the confusion damage, you know. I had 8 confusion or so at them, and then they lost 15% of their health with 1 proc. It's actually really, really crazy good. What? I mean, it swapped yesterday evening. So maybe you didn't notice it now. It swapped yesterday evening. Yeah, so we were before on the Great House Aviary, and now we are on Bloodstone something. Yeah. Yeah, it's really annoying. I think fighting a build like that, especially when I play Elementalist, something that has a lot of attacks all the time, it's one of the worst things to fight is a Confusion build. Because it feels like Confusion is one of the most unbalanced conditions. Because just the fact that you want to remove it, to cleanse it, actually lets you proc the Confusion one last time, even if you remove it. And that means that you get the damage anyway. So what is the counterplay to Confusion? You just don't attack. But that's a really bad counterplay because that means that you just move and you can't attack. And if you can't attack, you can't counter pressure. And then the enemy still gets a lot of benefit from having applied a lot of Confusion. So I think Confusion is one of the most underrated nasty conditions actually in competitive modes, yeah. Interesting. I actually did not know that, Roaming Spirit. But thanks for pointing it out, yeah. By the way, if you want to get some extra gold in World vs. World right now, or in PvP, one of the best reward swag to do is the content reward swag. It gives a lot of gold. The last bag alone gives around 10 to 15 gold. It's really, really good. And you get a lot of those writs that you can use to craft legendaries in the Gen 3 legendaries as well. So it's not as good anymore as it was when it launched, but it's still very, very good. So don't forget it. Auto text trigger Confusion as well, yes. Exactly, that's the same thing with the Berserker Mace burst skill that is also applying a lot of Confusion. Skull Grinder, that's the name. That's the same. Every attack that applies a lot of Confusion can be really devastating to classes that have a lot of skills that they activate really fast. Yeah, and Elementalist is of course a class that has a lot of skills because, for example, Catalyst applies with this, with the Sphere is an instant cast attack. Another Mesmer can also be, if you hit the Confusion on a Mirage that is playing a Power Mirage, the Power Mirage is dead. It's insane how much it do. It's crazy. Auto packs proc at you. I mean, what you mean when a Mesmer? No, you have to, the Confusion has to be on the target. So if you are, for example, if the Mesmer spawns 3 clones and the clones attack you, it's not proccing the Confusion. It's only proccing the Confusion if you yourself have the Confusion and proc it. Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. If you need the Clovers, then you should not go for it. But the problem is, I feel like a lot of people want to get instant gold, and that's what you get from this. Yeah. You get instant gold out of that. If you go for the Clovers, then it's not always the case. Oh, that's how many people are there? Oh, that's just a minion guy. Let's try to kill the minion guy. No, let's go on the Mesmer. Okay, unblockable. Okay. I think we got them. Oh, there are 3 people now. I wanted to cast my X3. Oh, they're so mean. Sad. Could have won that. Could have won that if I played better. No, Confusion only procs when you use skills. So if you move, it doesn't proc. So it does some passive damage. You know, it says 116 damage passively, 364 damage if you use a skill. So the passive damage will always apply. But if you cast a skill, which is not moving, it's just casting. So anything that is considered an attack and that's not like moving around, then you actually get the damage, yes. Yeah, I think the problem is Confusion got reworked, I think, so many times now, Snowdrop, that it's actually quite annoying for everyone. So I think they will just leave it for now as it is. I really liked the idea that you had builds like Condi Mirage with X, that you actually had a really high damage output on bosses that have a really frequent attack pattern like Soulless Hauler, maybe like Matthias. Yeah, like those bosses. I think that was really fun that you had a build that was really shining there. But at the same time, I can see why it's really hard to balance around that. So that's why actually I feel like that makes sense to have a working solution like nowadays. But in my opinion, it's way more interesting to have a cool condition like confusion in the beginning of the game. Yeah. One more rework? Maybe, if it's true. if it's true and it works out that they could get the condition Mirage to 0%, maybe. I mean, they wanted to play Power Mirage for whatever reason, make it viable. I think that's, for me, I think that's a big mistake. I think Mirage was always designed like a Condi trade line, and in my opinion, Virtuoso was always designed like a power trade line. I think that's how it should be. But ArenaNet doesn't agree with me on that, so I guess that's their decision. I can't change that. But yeah, what can you do? And I think Chronomancer can be played both. It's interesting. It's just the trade line is just very supportive by nature already. So you can take it in whatever build you want, actually. Yeah. Yeah, if you look at statistics, that might be true that Thief is the least played class. But if you look at Mesmer, just look at Mesmer is 100%, you know, and you think about which elite spec is played, I would say Virtuoso is probably around 40%. Then you have Chronomancer at maybe 50%, and then you have Mirage at 10%, and that's probably a very optimistic guess. Yeah, so I think Mirage is even in PvE, I would say it's not important that you have a really obnoxious dodge mechanic. It's way underplayed, and that's a problem. I think they should take a look at that, and I think it's a really fun design, and a lot of people would actually enjoy playing Mirage, but it's just the builds nowadays are just either very hard or at the same time sometimes not very good. Yeah. Yeah, maybe Solar needs to come back, I guess. maybe. I don't know. I was not the biggest fan of the Solar changes, to say the least, but yeah, I mean. When did you learn English? My vocabulary is great. The questions on YouTube. So I learned English. So in Germany, at least when I was growing up, we started learning English in elementary school. So that is around, I don't know, 8 years old or something like that. And that was more like some kind of fun activity. It was not a real subject that you had to take and you got some really annoying tests and stuff. It was more like you had some experience with the English language. Yeah. And the thing why I speak English quite decently well, I would say, is more because I am doing everything in English. I'm not joking. Everything that I do is actually considered my native language nowadays in English. I really rarely speak German nowadays in most situations, even at work. So yeah, it's just because I watch everything in English, I read everything in English. It's more like English is my, so to say, not my native language, but starting at maybe 15 or something, I did everything in English, and that helps a lot. Yeah. My pronunciation is not very good. I'm still, you know, this German accent comes through. I think I'm still working on that, but I think my overall vocabulary and that stuff improves by quite a bit in the last few years, I would say. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the same in Austria. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the old dagger on Mirage, where you could get the ambush skill that was dazing, and you could then use the Infinite Horizon trait that your illusions would also daze on their ambush attack. That was so annoying. That was one of the most annoying builds you could play, especially if you play with Demon Queen Relic and you apply poison then as well. It was so obnoxious. It's actually insane if you think about it, what it actually provides. The burst damage is actually crazy. Look at the burning that I apply as well. It's really high amount of damage. Yeah. Yeah, glad you like my content. Okay, so I think I showcased this build quite a bit. I will now swap to the second build after this camp, because I wanted to showcase another really cool build that I cooked up in the last few days. Oh, nice, we get a 1-on-1, hopefully. Don't run away. Oh! That was close. So sad. No. I got it. Yeah, I think that this was the design idea of having an interrupt on an ambush attack that you could actually mimic to your clones was absolutely insane. It applied nasty conditions. I think it applied 4 conditions while still being able to daze the foe and having the advantage of, you know, you don't even having to be in melee range. It's actually insane. It's actually insane. Scorian, good luck. Wing 7 is actually not that scary, so have fun with it. It's actually, enjoy the experience of learning the raids. It's actually very fun, and I think especially Wing 7 is a very cinematic raid. It's really cool. The encounters are very good looking and it's really interesting. So take your time, have fun. Don't be stressed out by it. It's not too hard. Yeah. So swapping to Revenant now. And I want to showcase the next interesting build. Okay, so the idea here is somewhat similar than the Mesmer build, that you play a build that is very nasty in the tankiness while still having amazing burst damage. My main language is German, of course, if I'm from Germany. Yeah. Is there a thief build where I can face tank in open world? You can play a Spectre, I would say. Spectre is probably the most face tanking build because you actually have your Shadow Shroud and you have a very high amount of health with the Shadow Shroud. So I would say Spectre is very good. I will make a Spectre solo build guide, I think, next week, maybe. I will see. And then you can play that one. But before that, I would say Spectre is a very good pick, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people think like the German language is really rigid, really dry. Yeah, that's true. Especially if you look at the words that we have, you know, in English, you can't really have long words because the idea is, for example, if you have a word that is in Germany, if we have a word like table and we have a word like leg, yeah, so just 2 unrelated words and you can put them together. And then it means that's the leg of the table, yeah. And in German, you can put multiple of those words that are already combined together. So you have, instead of 2 words that you put together, you can put two words together and you have a 4 word, and that's actually existing. So German is a very, very weird and very dry language in that sense because you can put so much weird stuff as well. It's really, really bad to learn for not native speakers, yeah. Yeah, maybe I would say for open world, I would actually agree with you there that probably Thief is for most open world content. I would rather go with the Willbender because Willbender is more mobile and does more damage. Oh, we get a 1-on-1. That's not a real 1-on-1. It's a 3v1, but still, you know, we get some fight. So the idea of this build here is we use Corruption with a lot of damage on Condis. We use Retribution for a lot of defenses and some nice might application. And then now comes the crazy cook. We're using Herald with Elder's Respite for some nice passive regen. Because we are going for a mix of apothecaries with, I think, what is this? Another apothecary thing. But then we go for, I think that's Settlers or something. I think we are going for some Settlers mix as well in there. And what is this? I have some really crazy cook Ritualist gear in there just to get some boon duration, getting really high toughness and having really high just condition damage as well, while still having the ability to regenerate with regen because of the healing power. This build is really annoying to fight because you're so tanky, you have so much passive sustain while dealing amazing DPS because you're running Spear and Mace. and you are Condi build, it's actually really surprising how crazy this build performs. I was winning a lot of 1-on-1s that I should not have won. Just let me tell you that. Okay, we have here 2 players. Let's try it out. Oh, there are way more players, but let's see. Okay, this guy is AFK, I guess. And now he's dead. That's not gonna work, I would say. Yeah. I'm not sure if I can win this. But I tried my best, you know, it's for people. Welcome from Belgium. Welcome, welcome. Exactly what Roaming Spirit posting. That's a long word in Germany. It's actually existing. Yeah, I mean, I try my best to speak very clearly and make it very, you know, my language very well to understand for everyone. So I try my best to hide my accent. But of course, it's always coming through. My pronunciation is not perfect after all. Even, I would say, far from it, actually. Yeah. So, Revenant has a lot of buffs. So, all those skills give me a lot of boons passively. And when you talk about those buffs here, those you can get, for example, from the Candy Corn Gobbler, which gives you some, you can trade some candy corn that you can buy from the TP for some buffs that you just get on your bar here. For example, like Experience Booster, like Magic Find Booster. You can get the Festival Gobbler as well here from the Snowflake Gobbler, just to get some more reward track gain, some more experience in the game. Then I have some food. I have some resting bonus, so that I get more reward track. So it's just improving the amount of rewards I get for playing what I already enjoy. So I play World vs. World, have fun, and I just want to get the maximum loot out of it. Because why not? Yeah. Really, that's an English word. That sounds very weird. I have to be honest. That sounds like a very long English weird word, and most people probably don't know what that is. Me as well. You know, I don't know what it is. Yeah. Me included. Yeah. Yeah, Spear is I think Revenant Spear is after Mesmer Spear probably the most overpowered spear. Maybe with Guardian Spear. Those, I don't know, there are so many good spears, I would say, but Revenant Spear is extremely strong. It's really good. Yeah, I was actually thinking about, you know, I knew that pneumo means something with the lung, but I was not knowing what kind of disease it is, so I guess that makes sense. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Now we know. Just remember it, you know. Yeah. Yeah, maybe Thief is not that good on the Spear, but I think the Spear is really good on Thief, but it's really hard to perform on. What else is not that crazy good? I think what else do we have? The Warrior Spear is, I would say, also not that broken in a lot of game modes, especially in PvE. I would say it's not that crazy. But, yeah. Welcome, Alka. Welcome. Yeah, it was a really well done tier list, so thanks for preparing it, yeah. Really liked it. And I really think that this is a topic where I really wanted to get more awareness on, because I think the gem stores is something that all Guild Wars 2 players will encounter at some point. They want to purchase something of the gem store. And I feel like there are a lot of traps in there. And that's why it's really good to have a tier list about that. So thanks for preparing that, Alka. Yeah, really nice. And I know there are a lot of other content creators that made a tier list about it, but I feel like you have to keep those updated, and you also have to include a lot of stuff. And I feel like a lot of content creators did not put all the perfect choices in there. So I think some stuff is actually very valid to put on there. I thought I wanted to share my opinion on that as well, because I'm someone that I would say probably is one of the more acknowledged content creators when it comes to how much money my account is worth, because I feel like I have a lot of stuff, a lot of knowledge about how to make gold in Guild Wars 2, or at least how to spend your gold. Yeah. And of course, it's always better to have multiple people that give you a view on a situation, because if you're very interested and you want to be really sure that the stuff that you're investing in is worth it, then of course get multiple opinions on that. And I have to be honest, I'm also, Gemstore is, I think half of my account value is invested in Gemstore stuff. Sorry, but that's how I spend my gold. I get some Gemstore stuff, so I know what I'm talking about. I have 70 character slots. I have, I don't know, 500 backslot expansions and that kind of stuff. So there is definitely some value in what I have to say about that. It's not like I don't know what I'm talking about. Ooh, that's a 101 power Soul Beast. I think we win this easily. It's a sick M Soul Beast with maces. We have so much protection uptime. We don't get any damage from the worldly impact. And now it's dead. I'm swapping to spear. Yeah, it's true. You know, I know how to spend my money. I don't know how to make it. You know, I don't have any money anymore in the game. I spent all of it on 2000 Blackline chest keys and I lost it. You know, just telling you, I don't listen to me. I wasted all my money on Blackline keys. Sad truth here. Sad truth. Maybe, yeah. Thanks for the tip there. Yeah, I think if you just play Guild Wars 2 for a long time, your account value will go up and you will reach numbers that are crazy. You know, if you play the game for 10 years, you have high account value. But the interesting part is, I'm always someone that has a very efficient mindset. You know, when I want to play, I put on every single possibility when it comes to boosters and stuff that is actually worthwhile to run. For example, I always play in competitive modes with the boosters, with food, with the experience, with the celebration booster and that kind of stuff. And I do that for every single game mode. And I always try to min-max my stuff when I sell stuff, when I buy stuff. Always try to min-max. And I was doing a lot of stuff on the TP as well before I started streaming. So there is a lot of knowledge about that. And even though most content creators have way more hours in Guild Wars 2, I have 4 times the amount of gold value. So it's always like, how do you play the game? It's not like something that I want to boast about, but it's something that's qualifying me to give you some nice feedback on why you should spend your gold on stuff, because I know how to actually make it work and to not waste your gold on stuff that is actually completely useless. Yeah, account value is something really weird in Guild Wars 2. It's like a metric that you use to see how much value your account has. So how much imaginary gold your account actually spent. But it's not real gold. It's more like the value that the items summed up in total on your account are actually worth. Because, for example, if you make a legendary nowadays, that costs maybe, I don't know, how much does a legendary cost nowadays? So let's say maybe around 1.5 to 3k. Let's say Twilight. Let's say you buy it for 1.5k. That's how much the legendary costs. But back in the old days, this legendary was 2.5k, you know? So it's the account value is always the current value. So if you have a Twilight bound to your account, you bought it for 2.5k back in the old day, and now you get it for 1.5k, your account value is 1k less than before. And that's summing up over all items that you have in your account. So the account value is something that is very volatile, it's very fluctuating a lot, and it's also not a very good metric to compare how much your gold or your stuff is actually worth, because no one actually has this amount of gold lying around, you know. It's not like you say I have 300k account value and that's why I have 300k gold in my wallet. That's not even possible, but if it would be possible, it's not something that is actually true. But that's why for new players it's not really an interesting metric, but for veterans that are more, let's say, engaged in the game, it's a very fun metric to compare how much gold you actually spend on gems, how much gold you actually spend on legendaries and that kind of stuff. And sometimes legendaries, or not legendaries, but sometimes something that you buy goes up in price and your account value actually increases, even though you didn't do anything with your gold or didn't get any more gold out of it. I hate dead eyes, it's so annoying. No, now it's dead. So how do you get so much gold? So I have on my YouTube channel a lot of gold guides, so you can check them out on my YouTube channel. Link is in the description of the Twitch stream. But the most important thing is you just have to play a lot. That's the true answer here. It does not really matter if you play the game, if you fight, if you have fun in the game and just spend a lot of hours, you get a lot of gold. Of course, there are a lot of things that are more worthwhile to do than other things, but if you play PvE, if you play PvP, World versus World, it doesn't really matter. A lot of stuff gives you around 15 to 20 gold per hour if you just play the game. But of course, there are some farms that are more efficient and there are some things that are very lucrative. For example, trading post, flipping, just manipulation, processing and that kind of stuff. But that's a very high investment of time that you have to put into stuff that is maybe not the thing that you actually enjoy about the game. So for example, if you like to fight in Guild Wars 2, you shouldn't do trading post stuff because you're not fighting, you're just sitting in the trading post and buying and selling stuff to make gold. Yeah, it's not for everyone. Yeah. So Boomba, I will do a build guide about that next week, so don't worry, it's really, really good. Coming up soon. Yeah. Exactly, the maximum value that you can have in your wallet is 200k, like a lot of people or some people showed in previous things. 200k is the maximum. I don't know why it's 200k, but that's the number that you can have maximum in your wallet. Yeah, so this build and the Mesmer build will be getting a build guide very soon, so don't worry. Exactly, it's definitely not the most amount of value that you can have in your account. Of course, you can have way more. Just if you look at the bank slots, if you have all your bank filled up with legendaries, for example, you would have way more account value than just 200k. Yeah. So it's not the maximum that you actually can hold, of course, but it's the maximum liquid one that you can have in your thing. Yeah, I'm not so sure about the onion farming. I think maybe I did not know the details there about how actually you can make it work, but I think it's a little bit overhyped, yeah, to say the least. You can have over 200k. I mean, you can, not in the wallet. Wallet is the maximum, but you can have it on the bank. You can have it on the guild bank. You can have more than 200k, but it's not in the wallet shown at least. Yeah. Yeah, if the community manager told us about onion farming, it has to be good, you know. I mean, the new thing was, I think it was Rutabaga or something. The new Rutabaga, the farm that you have to do for the upcoming legendary back piece. That's how you should do it. That's true. You can also use the TP delivery box. There are ways to actually circumvent that. That's true. But it's why would a normal player care about that? You know, it's I would say 99.9% of the player base is actually not even close to getting to this. Okay, we fight this time Untamed. I think it's again with maces and greatsword. No, maces and hammer, I guess. No, we have 2 people. Oh, come on. This is, do you see the CC chaining? It's actually insane. It's actually crazy how much CC chain that those 2 people have. It's actually crazy. But I think we can still win this. I mean, I guess the other guy is running away anyway. Okay, maybe you're right there. Maybe that's because of the integers. Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, it's still a weird thing that they can't just make it something like it's, I don't know, transferring it to 64-bit. I guess it's something of a niche scenario and they wouldn't really care about it for the most part because no one actually is expected to have that much gold, but I guess that you're completely right. I think that's the reason, yeah. But I mean, why should it really matter? Most people don't get there anyway. I mean, I'm not sure that, I think maybe for gems they care a bit more about that there is no cap because people might spend that much money actually for whatever reason. Getting 200k gems is actually not that hard if you think about it, how much you actually get by swiping, you know. So, and the number of gold is actually way harder to achieve than, you know, I have almost 6k gems already. 200k is just, let's say, 33 times more, 33. It's actually, yeah, it's not that much more. Yeah. So I guess that's a different number then. It's probably a higher one. Yeah. Okay, 900k almost, I guess. I mean, that doesn't mean it's you know, it's working. We don't know about it. We didn't see it yet, but I think that's probably true. I mean, it's also insane. Almost 50k hours. That sounds like insane. That's absolutely insane. How much is that actually? That's a lot. Not only a lot of gems, but also a lot of time spent in the game. I have to say that. Yeah. Yeah. 5.7 years. And Guild Wars 2 is out for 13 years or something. So that means that you almost played, let's say, 10, 11 hours per day. Ooh, that's a lot. I guess you still got a lot of worth for your money then, if you think about how many hours that is and how much gems you probably have swiped, or maybe you transferred it with gold, but that's actually an insane number. So I don't know, that sounds like very, very high, very high. But I think a lot of the really high numbers on efficiency are just insane. Not only gems, not only hours spent, but also gold. Also, it doesn't matter which kind of metric you're actually looking at efficiency. Almost anything there is actually insane if you look at the highest numbers. Yeah, it's almost 12k of US dollar. That's crazy. But it's not that crazy if you think about how much people spend, for example, for mobile games like gacha games and stuff. That's peanuts for them. You know, there are people that are actually absolutely insane. Or look at Black Desert and stuff for the upgrading system. There are a lot of people that are actually absolutely insane. Doesn't mean I would do it. I'm just saying it's not very uncommon to spend that much money. So this guy will go in Vengeance in a second. There we go. The NPCs. The NPCs. Okay, I survived. Yeah, it's true. I would say it's actually, I don't care that much because people that spend real money will help me to just get the game and get more stuff on the gem store for less money. Yeah, that's true. Oh, let me leave. Ugh, come on. I couldn't get the jump. And oh, I guess I still killed this guy and the NPC killed me. Unlucky. Lost the 1-on-1 to the supervisor. That's the sad part here. Yeah, exactly. If you think about that, people spend over 100k of money, real money in BDO. It's actually insane. It's absolutely insane. I mean, it's not something that I would do in any game, but it sounds like if it's done in Guild Wars 2 to a lesser degree, I think it's just helping the casual community, you know, the currency exchange profits from that. That's really helpful. If a lot of people transfer gems to gold, we get, let's say, less expensive gems to buy from the gold stuff. It's really helping. Yes, next time I will lose to Big Nose Ted. Yeah, that's very likely actually. Yeah. It's after all a very hard story boss, and it's one of the first ones that you encounter. And there are more to follow. Yeah. Yeah, very true, very true. Thanks for all the follows, by the way. Really appreciate it. People that spend that kind of money are the same people that would throw an entire pizza away if they had a single hair on it instead of picking it off. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I really don't know. I don't know anyone that spent that much money, so I can't give you any facts about that. But to me, it's insane to spend that much money. If you have that much money, why would you spend it on something that... I mean, in BDO, I don't know. I didn't play BDO that much. But in Guild Wars 2, for me, it's like, why would you spend that much gold on something that is just cosmetic, you know? Is it not way cooler if you could get cosmetic stuff that you want to get in Guild Wars 2, and you earned it yourself without spending money, you know? For me, I know if people have not as much time to play, then that's something different. If you can't play 10 hours a week and only play 1 hour a week, it's really hard to get a legendary. That is true, yeah? But those people that are on the top of the leaderboards, we just saw it, they have 50k hours, so they play way more than me. So it's definitely not a playtime issue. It's just they spend a lot of money for that. Yeah. Oh, super speed scrapper. That doesn't look promising, the 1-on-1, I have to admit. Oh, maybe I hit the skill. I'm fine. I need to get protection. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I have him. Gotcha. Very nice. Crazy. That's insane, you know. But that's how it goes, you know. Addiction. That's always the way, I guess. If a lot of people are addicted to something, they might spend way more than it's good for them. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I think in Guild Wars 2 the addiction is way less likely than in games like BDO, like gacha games and stuff, where you really want to get all the stuff. In Guild Wars 2, there is no real reason. You don't get a benefit of having the newest skins, you know, it's not really. Let's see if we can do this 1-on-1. I think we will be fine. It's a power spear, spellbreaker. It's not too scary. Okay, now he's in rampage. Not scary at all, I have to admit. Just forcing the stun break. Oh, no, never mind. Yeah, I mean, I didn't get below 90%, I would say, for the most part in this fight. mm. There we go. Nice. Yeah, that's true. If don't take my word for it, you know, I spent 2k blackline chests and opened them, but I was saving up for that thing for actually maybe years. I don't know. I think I was saving up for quite a while, but I was waiting very patiently to actually get the blackline statuettes, the double ones in there, the guaranteed ones. So it's actually true, yeah. Yeah. I made a mistake as a planned new player picking Elementalist. Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy the class fantasy, then you didn't do a mistake. But if you are now realizing that Elementalist is not the class that you really enjoy playing, then you can still swap. But don't say it's because you think it's really hard. I think Elementalist, if you enjoy the class fantasy, you should still play it. You know, it's really important that you play a class that you enjoy. If you're playing a class that people say it's very easy and you don't enjoy it, that's a bigger mistake than just playing a class that you think is hard, but you enjoy. Because you will get to a point where Elementalist will not become hard. And I would say Elementalist is also not the hardest class to pick. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe you're really getting to know the downstack mechanics a little bit more. No, I mean, Elementalist can be overwhelming at first. I would agree with that, but it's still a very fun class. It's probably one of my favorite classes to play, just from the versatility that it brings with all the kits, all the, you know, weapon skills and stuff. It's really, really cool from a design perspective. But of course, it can be really overwhelming if you start out, because it just has so many skills that you don't know what all of them do, you know. Maybe we get a 101. Just want to showcase this build a little bit more, because it's actually really fun. It's really fun. Oh, there, now there's an ally. Seems like we are outnumbering the enemies on this map. That's for sure. The only thing this build struggles a bit with is Condi Cleanse, but you have a very low cooldown, 20-second cooldown Condi Cleanse here. That is actually not only Condi cleansing, but it's also transferring if you use it in the Malex form, which is obviously really broken because let's say a very annoying skill. It's this skill is one of the most annoying skills in the game in competitive modes, because you can transfer conditions, which is obviously already quite strong. But if you use it correctly, it's actually undodgeable. So that means it hits even if you are currently in the dodge animation, which is really weird. It doesn't really exist in Guild Wars 2 anything outside of this skill, I would say. But this is absolutely insane, which is obviously really annoying. If you fight another Condi build and they dodge, you don't care. You just transfer anyway. It's really, really good. It's also AoE, so you can transfer the Condi actually to a lot of people. That's really, really good. Okay. Stop running. Got him. Okay, it's a Scourge. Scary, scary enemy. What? The unblockable stuff is actually killing me. He hit a very nice transfer there, I have to admit. The transfer was actually insane. I would have almost lost it. But only almost, you know. Losing to a Scourge in a competitive mode would be a shame. There we go. So I think that's also enough streaming today. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed my stream. It was really entertaining. I had a lot of fun. If you haven't already, check out my YouTube channel. I have some nice content there. More to come, don't worry. And I will also have more streams next week as well. And thanks a lot. Have a really nice weekend. It was really fun. And hope to see you around. See you around.